We mentioned Steph Curry. Let's talk about him. Dig a little deeper. This time, bring Chris Broussard into the conversation. Steph played the Sixers last night, or at least that's what it felt like. Just an absolute light show yet again. 10 3-pointers, 49 points, his 11th straight game scoring at least 30. Here's what you need to know. The guy couldn't miss. He couldn't. Warriors win. Here's Steph Curry after the game.
I mean, from Wilt's last week and then this streak, I'm obviously aware, but it's you don't put too much pressure on yourself. You just play basketball. I think for the first time in that third quarter, I started to press a little bit down the stretch, and they started to pick up the intensity on the ball and rushed a couple shots. But for the most part, I've just settled into just having fun. You know, being aggressive, obviously, but kind of letting the game come to you. And for me, that looks a certain type of way, but I'm having a blast out there just playing basketball, and it's obviously working.
I've seen Kobe Bryant, early in his career had a stretch where he went nuts, and obviously Michael Jordan had some stretches where he just scored like crazy. But obviously nobody's ever shot the ball like this in the history of the game, and even by Steph's own lofty standards, this is above and beyond.
That it was. Magic Johnson was watching as well. He said Steph Curry left no doubt about who the real MVP is tonight. So, Chris Broussard, I'll start with you. Has Steph's recent surge put him in the MVP conversation?
Well, if the conversation is top 5, sure. But to win it? No, heavens no, not yet. I mean, if Steph continues to play like this for the rest of the season, and they somehow work their way up to the 5th seed, where they're 6 games out of that right now, then we can talk. But winning counts. Steve Kerr mentioned Kobe Bryant going berserk. Kobe Bryant averaged 35 points in 2006. He had the 81-point game, the 62-point game. He had 6 games of 50 or more points and finished 4th in the MVP race because they were the 7th seed. Steph's not even the 7th seed. Michael Jordan averaged 37 points one year, didn't win the MVP. Winning counts. Even in a year like this where so many of the top players are out with injuries and guys on the top teams are out with injuries or not MVP worthy. No, Steph is not in the running for the winner right at this moment. Again, if they move up in the standings, then we can talk. But right now it's Nikola Jokic, 26 points, 11 rebounds, 9 assists, leads the league in PER. Oh my goodness, listen to this, Brandon. Leads the league in PER. They've won 3 straight without Jamal Murray, and they're the 4th seed. Now, if they fall and Golden State rises, then we can talk. And don't even bring up Joel Embiid. Just let me respond when you do.
Hold on. You just went on a rant. You just went on a rant saying winning is everything. That's what you just said.
No, I didn't say everything. I said it counts. I said it counts. The precedent, not everything.
Okay, so the way you talked about it was almost rant-like. Okay, the precedent is the MVP comes from the number 1 seed or the number 2 seed. That's the precedent. No. So now you're talking about Joker. I know this ain't about Joker, but you're talking about Joker and they're sitting at the 4th seed. Come on, man. You know Joel Embiid is the clear-cut MVP right now. But anyways, on this Steph Curry deal, no, Chris, you said it. You've been voting for the MVP for years, and you laid out your criteria. We're talking about individual statistics and performance. We're talking about team record. We're talking about, historical precedent and historical significance. He's only done this for less than 20% of the season. They're the 9th seed right now. So you can't throw him into this conversation. Now, if he continues to do this, he finished out the year like this, now it's a real conversation, Nick. But right now, we're talking about less than 20% of the season. This should be highlighted. He's absolutely balling. It's phenomenal what he's doing, and it's how he's doing it. We're talking about off the pick. We're talking about off the dribble, left hand, right hand. It's amazing. It will be celebrated for a long time, but he is not the MVP. And if it continues, then we can have a real conversation.
And Steve Kerr said it exactly right. And maybe because of the old Warriors-Rockets rivalry, he didn't include Harden in this when he was talking about the best scoring stretches we've seen. Jordan's 37-point per game season. Kobe, obviously, in 06. And Harden 2 years ago, when this was Steph's 11th straight 30-point game. Harden scored 30 in 32 consecutive games 2 seasons ago. And by the way, he didn't win the MVP either because Giannis won it. So we have seen scoring stretches better than this one. But we have never, and it's not close, seen shooting stretches better than this one. And sometimes you've got a very good player who has an unbelievable run. I'm going to go to baseball. You have like Fernando Valenzuela, what he did in the early 80s to start a year. And it's like, oh my God, this is one of the greatest stretches ever. But what's really special is when the greatest ever at something has his greatest run at that thing he's the greatest at. And I'll go back to baseball. Barry Bonds in 01. By the way, for another Bay Area team that missed the playoffs, I don't know if the Orioles will miss the playoffs, Barry Bonds had 14 home runs in 14 games at one point that season. He finished with 73, and it's like, oh, this is the greatest home run hitter ever at the apex of his powers. With Steph right now, it's the greatest shooter ever, having the greatest shooting stretch of his career. So it's not hyperbole to say the world has never seen what Steph has done over the last dozen games or so. But Broussard, I want to go back to you quickly. I would argue Steph is earning something more valuable than the MVP this year, which is he is answering one of the only questions that was on the resume because he had never had a chance to answer it. Could we drop you on a terrible team and could you make them relevant? Could we drop you on a bad roster and could you drag them to the postseason? Or, and you and I have talked about this a lot, because small guys, that is so hard to do, are you not going to be able to? This team was dead in the water. They had lost, 6 of 7? And then Steph started this streak. And now they are going to be at the very least in the play-in. If not moving themselves up to the 7-8 line, they'd still be in the play-in there. But, in the top 8, which is the traditional playoff bracket. To me, that's just as, if not more valuable than a high MVP finish because we've seen him win MVPs. We hadn't seen him do this, and he's answering that question resoundingly in real time.
No, that's a good point, Nick. Their record with him, I believe, is 28-22, which isn't bad. And that means they would be like the 8th seed if he were healthy all games. They're 1-7 without him. Look, I've said for a few years now that he's the best small player ever, edging out Isaiah Thomas of the Detroit Pistons. And I think he's solidifying that right now. And he's making an argument that you got to look at this and say, maybe he could move into the top 10 all-time players if he continues. He's going to keep this up, and we'll see if they can win next year. So Steph is having a tremendous year, no doubt about it, but not the MVP at this point.
All right. Broussard has a 17-point checklist that everyone needs to get A+ on in order to be considered for MVP. It's like having your home inspected. Sees the whole thing, constantly checking it off. Here's a secret, everybody. It's just PER. It's only PER. For the last few years, it's been the PER leader. Broussard doesn't want to say it's just PER because it takes away his coveted checklist, but it's just the PER leaders. And right now, Joker is at the top of the list. But Broussard, here's the funny thing. Oh, my goodness. When you look at, okay, so this is PER leaders. Can we show the top 5 PER this year, please, Katana? Here's the weird thing. And this is, I don't want to be negative. If you were a coach going up against these 5 teams, You wouldn't be able to stop Joker. You wouldn't be able to stop Embiid. You can't stop Giannis, and you can't stop Zion. If you have a singular defensive focus, Broussard, on stopping Steph, you probably could do it. You could probably.
Right.
What was Philly doing?
Well, missing Ben Simmons. If Ben Simmons was there,
He's
if you have a singular focus to stop him, you can stop him.
They do have a singular focus. I mean, who are they worried about? Andrew Wiggins? Kelly Oubre? No.
I don't know.
He's getting double and triple teamed nightly. Every dribble handoff, every pick and roll, high pick, he's getting double teamed and he's hitting tough shots. You can't stop him. He's in the same category as those guys as far as being unstoppable when he's on the road.
And by the way, I actually think that argument, Wilds, that you just made, the guy on there works against the most is Joker. Like, listen, Joker's going to probably win the MVP. I actually agree with Brandon. I think now Embiid has retaken the lead. And folks are going to feel really dumb when Joker goes home in round one.
Stop shaking your
It's a
head,
regular
Chris.
season award. It's a regular season award, but you're not supposed to lose in round one. And if he was a singular, unstoppable player, wouldn't happen. And so, what's up, Broussard? Because I want to make a Steph point, but go ahead, Broussard.
I just have one thing to say that I actually think might sway you and Brandon on this MVP thing. So I got to say it. All right, look, you guys know, let's hear me out. The regular season is becoming more and more insignificant and irrelevant to fans, and to players. So my thing is, if you give one of the things that can keep players engaged in the regular season are these individual awards which have historical significance. How many MVPs? How many All-NBA teams? All of that. Yeah. And so to give the award to Embiid, as great as he's been, when he's missed 18 games already,